Today we're going to go over the assembly process of the Alfawise U30. Alright guys, once you open the box, this is what it looks like, very well packaged. Once you remove the top layer, this is what you see at the bottom at the second layer. Alright guys, because this was sent to me by GearBest, I'm going to be a little bit more strict than I normally am. On the extruder or the hot end, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the support is still there. They didn't even remove the support. So the guy who did quality control, did a very bad job here, guys. And I actually have filament left over. They didn't remove none of that stuff. So I noticed that. Another thing I was disappointed with was I got a whole roll of PLA if it was about to run out. That's what I got. Maybe about 8-9 feet. Guys could at least opted for half a spool. The M4 16 nuts are labeled very well. These are all the tools that you get. You got your spool holder here. You got your belt right here. And more screws. They're fairly well labeled. You got your zip ties. One thing I did like, the springs for the bed. I noticed they're actually pretty stiff. So that's actually a good thing. You don't want your springs to be able, or you shouldn't be able to compress your springs all the way down. This is actually pretty good. I did like this. Here's all your railing system right here. You got your hot end right here, and then you got your display screen right here. The good thing about this particular printer, from what I know, the reason the ribbon is so long, you can actually place the display screen on either left or right side. So for those of you that are left-handed, this should be actually very helpful to you. One thing I don't like, but I experienced this in the Ender 3 as well. Now, I don't know if this is correct, but one of my buddies that works with computer chips all the time said you should not get human oil, which our body produces, onto the chips. I don't know why, but he just said it's not a good thing. Guys, how hard is it to put a cover on it? Same thing with Creality Ender 3. Come on. Just a little cover so it's a little bit easier. But this ribbon actually clips in right here, and that's why this is so long. I just wish there was a connector here instead. Okay, so you got that hot end, I believe I already mentioned. You got your lead screw or Z-rod. Now moving on to the bottom piece. I do like how they mounted the power supply box at the bottom, so it's out of the way and you don't really have to mess with it. You got your power switch in the back, along with your plug. The cabling, very surprised, guys. They actually, I mean, it's just, they wrapped it very well. I mean, there's really not much coming out of it where it's going to be in the way, which I really liked. I do like how they risen it a little bit, so they had everything they could mount at the bottom. The only thing I didn't like about this is my cable was a little damaged. Not damaged, but crimped, I guess you can say, or folded. But these type of ribbons, they're actually known to do that. So those are my concerns, just looking right out the box. But let's go and put this sucker together and see how the assembly process goes. Alright guys, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the vertical rods here. And we're going to use the M5X20 screws. So you're going to take out 2 of these bad boys right here. To save yourself some time, guys, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and find the Allen key now while you have it out. Just going to be the big boy right here. Hey guys, I know I said it doesn't matter which rail goes on which side. I was not correct about that. If you notice, there's 2 holes on one rail and not another rail. This is actually going to go to the left side if you're facing it from the front. So wherever your power supply is, it goes on the other side because this is where your Z motor is going to go. Alright, so what we're going to do here is you're just going to go ahead and take the screw. You'll see 2 holes right here from underneath. Feed that up and you'll see 2 holes right there. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this on there, give it a little bit of turn. As long as it's caught, I'm going to let it go. I'm not tightening it all the way at this point. Can't find the hole. Never had that problem before. So we're going to go ahead and twist this one on. Guys, when you're putting the screws in, if you feel any kind of tension where you have to use force, you want to take it back out, because if you don't, you're more likely going to cross thread the screws or the slots, and then your screws aren't going to fit and you will not get the rails to stick that well. And again, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright guys, so for this part you're going to need this rail right here. Please pay attention. Here you got 3 screws, 3 holes, 1 big hole and 1 little one. And on this one you have 3 on this side. One thing to pay attention to, notice the rails here, nothing has been cut. Here you got the holes, but you have an indentation here on the rails. So what you want to do is go ahead and put this side up like so. The side that has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes, you want to take this, wheels facing up. Now the reason that indentation is there, you see this screw, it's actually going to line up right in there, so it's flush. And then from here you're going to take M4 16 screws and just go and line them up. There you are. Alright guys, right here, the hot end, when I assemble it, I'm actually assembling it the wrong way. If you notice, that part right there, the wheels are facing out, so the hot end should actually be facing the other way, but I just happened to put it in the wrong way. I left this here to show you guys that during my installations, I make small, simple mistakes too. So the right way of doing it, as you can see, I had it fully assembled and I realized what the problem was. You just take out one of the ends there, and I'll show you how to install the filament feeder in just a second. And I just went ahead, it's this simple, flip it over and just make sure that the hot end is facing the correct way. And then after that, we'll just go ahead and install that back on. You're going to take the extruder assembly like so, and keep in mind, this part is going to be in the back. So what you want to do is line this up, and again, see this screw right here? That's actually going to go ahead and sit in here, because if you try to put it from the front, it will not sit flush. So put that in there like so. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. Take one of my screws. Now this one's a little tricky. You're going to have to put the screw in there and then take the Allen key from the top. Okay, so now that we have everything so I messed up. The hot end is actually supposed to be on this side, but instead of taking this part off, we'll just go ahead and take this part off. Normally people would edit this out, but I can't believe I just did that. Alright, so next we're going to assemble these. I call this my belt tensioner. I know there's another word for it, I just can't think of it right now. Comment down below if you know what that is. I'll probably figure it out later. So with the hot end being here, you want this to go in the opposite direction. So this is actually going to mount like this. And this is where your belt's going to go when it comes through on the other side. So just match it up with the holes here. Now on these guys, you can go ahead and screw them in, but don't tighten these, okay? Once you get this in there, you still want enough room to where you can move it back and forth. And I'll show you why in the next step. So the next step is going to be actually installing the belt. So if you have your assembly set up the way I do, you got the wheels right here, which is going to go on the rails in the back, and then you got your filament feeder assembly back here, and you're hot in the front. What you're gonna do is go ahead and put your belt, now keep in mind smooth side facing up, under the wheels here. Okay, once you get it there, go ahead and pull it out. And then on this side, you'll notice the gear here, so we're gonna feed it through. And then we're gonna come back from the bottom, like so. Okay, so now what you wanna do is go ahead and, this side right here, put the belt on, like so. But make sure this is pushed in all the way, okay? And now you can go ahead and tighten it just a little bit, just so it stays. Now to give you a better view, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this around. Feed it through there. It's gonna loop like so. I'm gonna pull this tight. Again, I'm gonna feed it through. Now you can put on the belt any way you want. I'm just doing it in this order. Alright, so you don't want this too tight, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna go and get your zip ties here. Lift this part up. Let's start from one side. So you're just gonna bend it over like so. Just make sure you're snug at this part, so the belt actually cuffs around that. If it's too loose, it might come off later. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. I learned from the first time. Go and put the zip tie through and just go ahead and start your knot right there. And again, don't make it super tight, but pull out it enough to where you get a little bit of tension. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Okay. And now, I don't think these little dingy zip ties are going to do it, so I'm going to put 2 zip ties here. And make it as tight as possible. Alright, there you go. The belt is still a little loose. I can feel it. See? Alright, there you go. And now you can go and flip it around, and this is where you're going to loosen these. Okay, now here you want to pull fairly tightly, making sure this is straight. Don't want it like this, you don't want it on top, because then your belt is actually going to start rubbing against the railing here, wearing it out faster than it should be. Alright, I'm just going to take a closer look from my angle to make sure they're straight. Alright, you're all set and your belt is tightened. Now you see right here, there's a gap on both sides, and that's exactly what we want, guys. Like that, so it doesn't rub against the rail. So this part's done. Alright guys, so the next step is going to be installing the Z motor. You'll notice two holes right there. Again, wherever your power supply is, it's on the opposite side. That's where your rails should be right there. So you just put this down, and you're going to take the M416 screws right here. There should be two remaining. Alright guys, so next we're going to install the Z coupler here. Now, just a few things. If you notice right here, this side is flat. This side actually has an indentation on it. This is where the Z rod's going to go. So we're just going to go and slide that in there. Make sure you don't drop it all the way to the bottom, okay? What you want to do here is raise it up a little bit. Then just take your Allen key and tighten it up. Then tighten up the other side. There should only be two screws here. Okay, and that's it right there. Now we'll move on to the next part. So now we're gonna go and slide this on to the printer. Just make sure hot end facing you. So face the computer or the printer that you see here. Make sure you got the wires behind you, and this should be fairly easy. You got two wheels outside, one on the inside, and it should just slide right on like so. There we go. Alright guys, so next we're going to install the lead screw or the Z-rod. It's going to go all the way down from there. If you notice, you have a hole right there. You're going to put the rod through there, and it's going to connect to the coupler right there. So when you put this in here, guys, I recommend just turning it, and it should. Okay, once you turn it and it can't go anymore to the bottom, now you're just going to take an Allen key and tighten that up. And it's that easy. Next we're going to install the remaining rail, and that's just going to go on top. Alright, something to pay attention to. You see that this side right here has been grooved out, while this side has not. So what you're going to do is, this is your bottom piece, and this is the top. This is where the screws are going to get screwed in from. So this part will sit up there like so. So let's go and get that screwed in. And for this, you're just going to use the remaining M5 X20 screws. Alright guys, so next we're going to go and install our Z limiter switch. All you got to make sure is you get your nut straight like that, because that's going to go in the groove here, and then when we turn it, it's going to lock itself into place. Okay? Let's go and get that set in there. Grab your Allen key and just tighten it up. Now, if you feel like this is too high or too low, and you'll know that is when you're trying to auto home or auto level your bed, and you feel like no matter how much you lower your bed, that the nozzle keeps hitting the bed, you can actually loosen this and raise it up a little bit. My recommendation would normally be to have it level to that, but I'm going to put it down here, and then once I have the bed installed, I'm going to go and raise it up at that time. Alright, so the easiest way to install the bed here, you want to take your springs, and you put the screw in, put it through the spring, and then line it up like so, so it sticks out. And then take the nut here, this side facing up, and just for right now, just a slight tighten, not too much, because we're going to be needing there you go. Then you just go ahead and take the glass, put it on, and clip it. Bed assembly done. Alright guys, so next we're going to go ahead and mount the display screen. Now, as you can see, the caps are already off here. You can go ahead and screw it on over here if you like so, using the M5 6 screws. I actually prefer them on the right, given that I'm right-handed. So I'm just going to pop these off. Make sure you don't lose these, because you're going to end up using them again to cover up the holes on the other side. Man, these are really on. There we go. Alright, now before we can go and screw these on, this is where our pretty ribbon comes into place. Now, for those of you that don't know how this is supposed to go, here is the front of the screen. If you turn it over, you'll notice it's upside down right now at the moment. This little black thing pops out, okay? So you can go ahead and pop that out, like so. Blue side up. Just plug it right on in. And pull this back to the front. Like so, and that should lock it in place. And I should have brought it from under here, but here we go. Now, just gonna go ahead and mount this up here. Alright guys, as much as I wanted it on the right hand side, given that the ribbon just sits here, I don't know how this would be possible, but just in case the bed ever moves and this gets stuck on there, I'm gonna get screwed. So I'm actually gonna do it the way they recommended it, and I'm gonna go ahead and mount it right here on the left side. Disappointing. Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and connect all the wiring now. These two, if you notice, they'll be labeled Z right there, and on this one it's labeled Z. So there's only two Z spots, one here, one here. Notice one's small, one's big. You can't really confuse them too much. So we're gonna connect the larger ones with the pin sticking up right here into that. Be careful not to bend the connectors in there. Okay, there we go. And now again, we're just going to connect this one right over here, like so. Alright guys, so you're left with these four wires here. You'll notice this is labeled E for extruder. This one's labeled E for extruder, so we're going to go ahead and plug the big one right in here. Again, be careful not to bend the pins and that they go in freely. And this one at the top, this is for the limiter switch. Sorry, this is for the filament sensor. Okay, and then you have X axis right here. One's big, one's small. Again, just plug it right there. And this one will go right in there. Alright, and the only thing left here now is the heat bed, and you'll notice this big clumpy one right here. And once you push it in, you should hear it click. And there you go. Alright guys, so this is the most important part. You could have put everything together, turned it on, and it would all gone to hell. Make sure you are on the right voltage. I always check this before I even plug the power cord in. If you notice, this is 115 for US, 230 for overseas or in Europe. Keep in mind, I got my cable with the European plug, and I kind of knew this was going to be the case. So most of these printers are tested overseas, so they're always, most of the time, set to 230. Now all you need is a flathead screwdriver, but you got to be super careful because these power supplies aren't that great. Just put it in there and switch it to the voltage that you're at, and it should read what voltage you want it to be at. So mine's at 115 right now. Switched over to this side, so I'm ready to go, and I'm gonna go and plug it in and test it out. Everything's connected, all the wiring's done, printer's ready to go. Let's go and turn this sucker on. And there it is, Alfawise U30 coming to life. Alright guys, so we know that everything is working correctly, and so the last thing I'm going to go and do is mount my spool holder again. Face the nuts here in the direction of the groove and pop them in, and they should tighten right up. Thanks to all the people that support the channel, and if you'd like to support the channel, there will be some links down below. You can always buy us a coffee here at Santube 3D, or you can become a Patreon on our Patreon page. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button, guys. There's a lot of useful information and tips out on this channel that will be useful to all the newcomers to the 3D printing community. So with that all said, guys, like always, good luck and happy printing.